Hey everyone, it's Nixie, and in this video, I want to share my thoughts about Dorinthia into the part of Mistveil heroes. If you haven't watched my gameplay into those heroes, make sure you check them out to learn how I approach these matchups. So the three new heroes of New, Enigma, and Zen looks to have an immediate impact on the meta, which is very exciting and scary at the same time, especially because Nats is right around the corner. So a lot of people don't have a lot of testing done yet. I personally can't make it to Nats this year, but I wish all the Doris that are competing the best and hope you guys get good results. And I hope this video will help those that are playing her some ideas and thoughts when fighting these new heroes. And before we get into it, I want to say thanks again to those that are watching my content and also support me on Patreon. It means a lot to me and helps me churn out these videos. We're almost at 1,000 subs, which is very exciting. I might plan to do a giveaway if I ever figure out how to actually do a YouTube giveaway, because I've never done one. So if you know a good way to do so, let me know. Alright, with that, let's get into what I think Dori matchup spread is into each of these heroes from the perspective of Dawnblade and dual wielding. Starting with the hero Nu. So Nu is really interesting because, like all assassins, they can be very disruptive. But unlike other assassins, they're actually really good into Guardians because all her ability just makes Guardians blues her blues. So it's really cool. And her existence is a definite plus for us because Guardians have always been a tough matchup for Dori. So them existing could push out some of the Guardian players out, which is going to be good for us. My feeling into Nu is that we are favored because our blues, unlike Guardian blues, are not that great for them. Sure, they could end up using stuff like blue overpower or blue shunts, but that's about it. Other blues like hit and run, valor, flint, yeah, those don't really do much. They could slightly buff their daggers and maybe their follow-up attacks with hit and run, but that's about it. It's not really that strong. So this means Nu's ability doesn't affect us that much, which is great. It pretty much limits her ability a lot. For a game plan into them, what I like to do is what I do into other assassins with Dawnblade, which is fatigue them, like in the video I posted. Just being defensive and blocking out their on hits and getting ready for attack reacts with my defensive reactions, then threatening 2 swings each turn will end up fatiguing them pretty well. Just don't do what I did and forget they can do ability anytime to banish that last card and then you can't play anymore. What a funny way to die. The weapon that they're most likely going to be using against you is Mistblade and Scale Peelers, because they're probably going to be expecting dual wielding, since that was like the build to go last meta. And if they're using Scale Peelers, that's great because it doesn't really do much into Dawnblade, so that helps us there. And speaking of dual wielding, if you are rocking dual wielding, you probably have a decent matchup still because Dynamo can easily block the Mistblade dagger attack since it doesn't have piercing like the other daggers. So that means that Nu needs to hold another card just to swing with Scale Peeler first and then swing with Mistblade again after, which really limits her hand size, meaning that her card she has for attack reacts and attack actions gets limited, and Nu's actually an assassin hero that actually needs more cards to be more explosive. So I'm gonna put Nu as favored in both Dawnblade and dual wielding. Alright. Next is Enigma. Like all illusionists, she can be very difficult for Dori. Her ward mechanic and instants are very hard to deal with because it just prevents us from hitting and we could never trigger our ability. Who knew shutting down a hero ability limits the hero? So with Dawnblade, not being able to hit at all prevents us from swinging twice to gain counters, or even if we get a counter, we end up losing it very quickly. Cards like Vambrace, Chorus and Shunts does help in this matchup, but not by a whole lot that it puts it in our favor or anything like that. Chorus of Iron Song is a good card, but it has to hit for its ability trigger to happen. But a lot of Enigmas right now are running a lot of defense reactions, so the hit from Chorus gets stuff from a defense reactions, and so that means that Chorus's ability doesn't really get triggered at all. Shunts are nice to maybe kill their ward attack by pinging them for 1, but most of the time they'll have other spectral shields that could absorb that 1 damage, or play out another instant ward to absorb that damage. So it makes it hard to turn off that go again and stuff their turn. So I'm gonna put her as definitely unfavor for Dawnblade. It's gonna be just very hard. But there are things I'm testing that have been showing some promising results. One of them is adding a lot more attack actions to make sure that you could still do something after a blocked out attack that has go again. And so that could help you clear more wards or stop her turn. So cards like CNC and Weakest Link are pretty good, and other attack action cards that have conditional go agains are nice, like Scar for a Scar for life. So if you're lower health, that helps you go wider and clear more wards and strip cards from them. Another card I've been also testing and kind of liking a lot is Exude Confidence, because that counters all the instance and defense reactions that they're playing, as long as they don't block with the big attack action card. He also pairs really well with an agility token, because if you start off with Exude and it doesn't get blocked out, then it locks out the instance and defense reactions for the rest of the combat chain. So that means that, you could Exude with go again and attack with a weapon that can't be stopped, which is nice. Just make sure you play out non-attack actions like Valor or Supremacy before you play Exude, so you don't end up breaking the chain, right? Because if you play Exude, then Exude effect will go away because you broke the chain. But yeah, even with that, it's still very hard and unfavored. For dual wielding, it might be a bit better into Enigma because you can almost always go 2 attacks wide. But if you don't hit, then you can't do the 3 swings that you want to do, so that's not great. And since most dual wielding don't run attack reacts as much, then they can kind of like pretty easily know how to block, so that makes it really hard. So if you are on dual wielding, I would suggest running a few more attack actions to go wider, so even after a second swing that's blocked out, you could follow up with another attack action like that Scar for a Scar or CNC. A cool trick that you can do is you could swing with a weapon, play Blade Runner, then play Hit and Run, which is, the standard thing you want to do. But instead of swinging with a weapon, you play Scar for a Scar. And as long as you're lower health, that Scar for a Scar will come in for 7 because it's buffed by Hit and Run, and it already has go again because you are lower health. And then after that, you can swing with your weapon, which is now buffed by Blade Runner, and also has go again because of Hit and Run. So that comes in for, let's say, 6, and if you do end up hitting Enigma, then you end up being able to swing again for your 3rd attack for 3. So that would be 2 plus 7 on the buffed Hit and Run Scar for a Scar, then 6 from the Blade Runner swing, and then another 3. So 18 damage, which is pretty good. The reason I would put Scar for a Scar in the middle of the attack instead of just, the normal swing Scar is because that 7 damage in the middle could help clear the wards and help you get a hit on the second swing that's buffed for 6, because if you hit there, then you can swing another time for 3. But yeah, things like that I think you need to think about and maybe help play around some of the ward mechanics. But it's still going to be a very hard matchup, and even for dual wielding, I'm going to put it unfavored, but maybe slightly unfavored. It's just not as unfavored as for Dawnblade, but still kind of bad. So I'm just gonna put it here for now, just to know that it's not as bad as Dawnblade. Last one is Zen, the new aggro hero. Unlike Katsu, he doesn't really rely on attacks hitting to get his churn going. So if you don't disrupt him, then he's just going to go off. So he's sort of like Fi in that sense. You just can push out a lot of damage without care on what the opponent does. But unlike Fi, Zen also has 7 block armor that he's happy to use early to get a huge churn, because blocking with those armor pieces actually makes Zen stronger because he gets 3 cards. But Fi only has 4 armor from Furnace and Shuko's. So that makes him slightly tankier. But even then, it's not too bad for Dawnblade Dori, because Dori loves aggro heroes that doesn't want to block well, or doesn't want to block at all. And that means that Dawnblade is going to get huge. And eventually, they're gonna need to try to block out a churn to reset those counters. And if we're able to go over that block or go around it with Twinning Blade, then it's pretty much a win for us. So I'm gonna put Zen as favored for Dawnblade. But make no mistake, Zen could still just blow you up in the first 2-3 churns before Dawnblade gets going. Like in that video I showed. If they just draw well, then there's just no stopping their high row. Kind of reminds me of Briar in that sense, with their channel mount heroics and stuff. For dual wielding, remember that graph I posted about dual wielding win percentage at different states of the game? Yeah, this is probably a very hard matchup because you can't race them as dual wielding, and they'll try to end the game before you get any dynamo value. So they're going to end the game here in the early stages, so your win percentage is kind of low. The only way dual wielding can get an edge in this matchup is throwing in disruptive attack action cards like CNC, Weakest Link, Amnesia, and maybe even Censor. But that's a tall ask to constantly disrupt them every turn while swinging 2 to 3 times. So I'm gonna put him as unfavored, slightly unfavored, one of these two. I'm gonna put him here. Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, these are my thoughts on Dori with Dawnblade and dual wielding into these new heroes. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Disagree? Is there something I missed? Probably. But yeah, let me know in the comments. And are you gonna be playing Dori into the upcoming meta? And if so, which weapon are you gonna be rocking? Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and catch you all next time.